Hello my dear subscribers. I'm pleased to welcome you to my YouTube channel dedicated to author stories. Enjoy listening.
In her childhood, Maria always brought home homeless kittens, injured birds, and crippled dogs. Grandma Zara, who raised the girl after her mother's death, would sigh and say, "Oh, Maria, always with kittens and puppies. One day, you'll bring a homeless child home. And then it'll be even worse, you'll fall in love with some vagabond and get married. Your kindness will be your undoing." Indeed, Maria was a very kind girl. She loved everyone and cared for everyone. Perhaps she herself lacked love and care, as she only had her grandmother. Therefore, the girl sought to give warmth to others and make the world a better place. It was quite predictable that after school, she went to study at a medical college to become a nurse and help people. After completing her studies with honors, Maria got a job at the city clinic, and she devoted herself entirely to her profession. True, commuting from the village to the city was a bit tough, but the girl got used to it. And finally, Grandma let out a sigh of relief. In recent years, she had feared that she might die before setting her granddaughter on her feet, but now Maria was earning her own living and, if she wanted to, could continue her education. So, the old woman was sure that everything would be fine for her Maria. Life indeed went on its course, and Maria felt that with each passing day, things were getting better. At work, though there were minor troubles, overall, everything was fine. Her salary, though small, was enough for now. And the patients appreciated her efforts. Some of them were a pleasure to talk to. Every day, though it resembled the previous one, always brought pleasant emotions to the girl and the feeling of happiness that she was in the right place and doing what she loved. She wasn't expecting any surprises from fate. However, that's what surprises are for, to happen unexpectedly. One day, returning on a cold October evening after work, Maria noticed a boy at the bus stop. He was sitting on a bench, swinging his legs sadly, gazing gloomily at the peeling paint of his once white sneakers. At first, the girl barely paid attention to him, thinking that he was just a regular boy. However, she soon realized that something was wrong with the child. Firstly, he was alone, and he looked about 5 years old. Secondly, the boy had clearly been crying recently. And he was dressed completely inadequately for the weather, not even wearing a hat. Maria approached and sat next to the little boy, who immediately scooted away. "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. Want some chocolate?" The girl took a chocolate bar from her bag, which was given to her today by a grateful patient. The child glanced at it sidelong but turned away without taking it. "He's scared," thought the girl. "Someone must have frightened him." "You know," she said to the little boy, "this is a very tasty chocolate. And I'm so hungry that I'll gladly eat a piece. If you don't mind? Although, I might get carried away and eat it all." With these words, the girl unwrapped the chocolate and, breaking off a piece, put it in her mouth. So delicious." The boy looked at the chocolate, and then Maria offered him some again. "Come on, take it," she encouraged him. This time, the boy didn't refuse. He ate with greed, looking at Maria skeptically. And the girl looked at him with pity. The child clearly needed more than just chocolate right now. He needed a proper hot dinner. And he needed to be washed, groomed, and dressed properly. When the little one finished eating, he already looked a bit happier. "Thank you. Do you have more?" he unexpectedly said. "I'm sorry, but there's no more left," the girl replied, noticing that the child even said thank you. "What's your name?" Maria asked. "My name is Jack, and yours?" "I'm Maria." "Jack, how old are you?" "I'm 6, Jack proudly answered. I'll go to school next year, but I won't go there because they don't take silly kids like me. Maria raised her eyebrows in surprise. Who told him he's silly? Uncle Logan, my mom's husband, Jack sighed. Does he call you that? Maria was surprised and upset at the same time. What does your mom say about it? My mom is gone, the child sighed again. She's in heaven with Grandma, Grandpa, and Bijah. His mother passed away, Maria understood. What a tragedy for the child. And who is Bijah? Bijah is our dog with Mom. She barked loudly and begged for food when Uncle Logan took her away, and I haven't seen her since. Then he said he returned Bijah to Mom, so I thought she's in heaven too. The girl's eyes filled with tears from what she heard, and a shiver ran down her spine. She felt scared. What are you doing here? It's cold, and you're all alone at the bus stop. It's late, and you don't even have a hat. Uncle Logan and some other guys were shouting at me while drunk today. They threw a stool at me, but they missed. I was scared. I got dressed and left, but I couldn't find my hat, the boy answered. Does he drink often? He always drinks, and I run away. I'm sitting here hoping that maybe Mom will come on the bus and take me. I'm waiting for her. Maria could barely hold back her tears. However, she had heard many heart-wrenching stories in the hospital, so she knew that to help, she needed to remain calm. Just a few minutes ago, she was thinking of taking the boy to the police station so they could sort out his situation. But now she realized that she had to take Jack with her, feed him, and clean him up. Jack, would you come with me? I have delicious pastries and tea at home. And I also have a dog and 3 cats, she said. The boy accepted the tempting offer without enthusiasm. My mom doesn't allow it. Well, she didn't allow me to go with strangers. You're right. But I'm not a stranger, I'm a nurse, I work at the hospital. And I have to help people, and I want to help you. My bus is coming soon. Will you come with me? Jack hesitated. I don't know. Uncle Logan will get angry and beat me again. So, he's still hitting you? The girl was outraged. You know what? Come with me. Enough of this. At that moment, the bus arrived at the stop. Maria took the boy's hand and led him on, and he followed, head down. When the bus started moving, Jack rushed to the window, and the girl was afraid he would start screaming. In the end, she might be accused of kidnapping. But the boy silently looked out the window, and they reached the settlement calmly. Baba Zara wasn't thrilled with the foundling, but she didn't show it the boy was innocent. She fed him and then went to the neighbor, who had sons, and asked for some clean clothes for Jack. They found something suitable, so they washed him, dressed him in new clothes, and let him watch cartoons while the adults discussed his situation. The surprise from her granddaughter didn't sit well with Zara. You know, it's a criminal case, kidnapping other people's children. Grandma, what are you talking about? I didn't steal anyone. I just found him and decided to help. She found him, grumbled the old woman. You should have taken him to the police. No, Maria objected, I can't do that. Tomorrow, I'll talk to Mrs. Bianca, our head nurse. She'll give me some advice. With that, the matter was closed for the time being. The next morning, Maria indeed told Mrs. Bianca about her situation. The hardworking and talented nurse was well respected by the head of the hospital. Just in case the grandmother would hand the boy over to the police, Maria took him with her to work and showed him to the head nurse. Maria, he has marks of abuse, the doctor said. Let's take him to the police. Mrs. Bianca, how can I give him to the police? He'll be sent to an orphanage, and I won't be able to take him from there for sure. You're misunderstanding, Maria. I have connections in the police. Yes, and in child services as well. We won't break the law. We'll just find out what can be done in such an exceptional situation so that you won't end up being blamed. After all, you don't know who his stepfather is. Maybe he's some kind of criminal. Since then, Maria found herself in a bureaucratic nightmare with explanations, documents, and other paperwork. Fortunately, Child Services understood Maria's situation and promised to assist her. There were also public figures who volunteered to help Maria and even published her story in the newspaper. It was a very difficult period in Maria's life. However, thanks to the efforts of caring people, she finally became Jack's guardian. It was the happiest day because during all that time, Maria had grown very fond of the boy, and he of her. Even Grandma Zara treated the foundling as if he were family. And Jack's stepfather didn't even bother looking for him. At first, he was still drunk and didn't understand anything, and when he sobered up and realized that Jack wasn't at home, he was afraid that his drinking buddies had done something to him. So, he was too scared to show up at the police station. Maria made a lot of effort to warm up the poor child. But she had so much kindness in her that over time, Jack felt like the happiest kid in the world. Though the family was not wealthy and lived modestly, the boy was content. Together, they found the graves of Jack's mother, grandmother, and grandfather, visiting and caring for them regularly. Maria struggled to find a photograph of Jack's mother since his stepfather had destroyed everything in a drunken rage. She had to search for acquaintances and distant relatives who might have something left. And when Maria gifted the boy an album with photographs, he was overjoyed. Jack turned out to be a great lover of animals too. He took care of Maria's cats and loved playing with the dog. In the fall, Maria accompanied him to school, where he looked smart with his fashionable haircut and a suit carefully sewn by Grandma Zara, along with a huge bouquet of garden roses for the occasion. Jack did quite well at school, especially since there were not many children in the class. The village was small. So, the teacher dedicated time and attention to each child. Maria felt like she had a real family. She enjoyed the responsibility and loved working with the first graders. Sometimes she laughed at the prophecy her grandmother had made about Maria bringing home an orphan someday. However, little did she know that the second prophecy would soon come true. One day, a fairly attractive guy with wind-burnt, reddish skin and a somewhat rough voice named Oscar was brought to the hospital where Maria worked. He had wounds from a fight. At first, the new patient didn't evoke any special feelings in Maria. She treated him like any other patient, doing his dressing and being polite, as with all the other patients. But one day, Oscar took Maria's hand and said, "I can't take my eyes off you, Maria. How can I heal if I'm constantly nervous, looking at you? I can't get enough of you." The nurse was taken aback. Patients had expressed their sympathy before, but never quite like this. She tried to free her hand, but Oscar held it tightly, letting her know that he wouldn't let go. And her heart fluttered when she felt that confidence and strength. Poor thing, she realized she was lost. Nobody visited Oscar at the hospital. He explained it by saying that he doesn't have any contact with his parents. He didn't make any loyal friends either. His life was complicated. He was a lone wolf because he had different views on life from most people. Maria found this romantic, as Oscar was like a lone wolf, standing taller than the rest of the pack. After being discharged, Oscar brought Maria a luxurious bouquet as a token of gratitude and then invited her for a walk at a cafe. From there, they started a passionate romance. Maria had been in relationships with young men before, but nothing serious. She always wanted a family and children with each guy she dated, but they often weren't ready for such responsibility. Oscar was different. From their very first dates, he talked about wanting a loyal and loving wife to fill his life with meaning. You see, Maria, a bachelor's life is incomplete. A man is a provider by nature. He should be the head of the family, working and providing for them. Otherwise, he'll just lose himself and go down a slippery slope. I don't want that, Oscar would tell her. Oh, Oscar, I thought you were a confirmed bachelor, a loner, Maria would be surprised. Yes, that's true, but it's a forced measure. The problem isn't with me, but with my surroundings. There are very few girls with the qualities I value. I've been searching my whole life for the one, and I can't find her. But if I do find her, I'll never let her go. She'll be my queen. You know, sometimes I think it's you, Maria. With these words, Maria would melt like ice cream, her heart fluttering, and her legs becoming weak. The brave girl dared to invite Oscar to her home, and he stayed the night under the pretext that it was difficult to get back to the city from the village in the evening. But the next day, he didn't leave either. Your place is really nice, Grandma Zara. It feels cozy, just like home, Oscar would say, familiarly patting the old lady's hunched shoulder. Visiting is nice, but home is better, I suppose, she'd reply with a hint. But Oscar seemed not to hear her. Every week, he would come to Maria and stay with her for several days. He felt comfortable in her house and decided to stay there forever. However, Grandma Zara was very upset when Oscar showed up with his belongings. No, she declared firmly. Only if you marry Maria, then you can move in. Until then, march on. The old lady was deeply upset by the guest's behavior, and on top of that, he didn't get along with Jack. From the very beginning, he teased the poor little boy, despite Maria telling him about the difficult history. Maria didn't like this treatment of her little ward either, but she attributed it to Oscar's inability to connect with children. It's okay, they'll both get used to each other, and everything will be fine, she mused. Maria was certain that Oscar loved her and would do everything to make her happy. He reinforced this belief when he proposed to her. Without hesitation, she agreed, and soon they got married. Jack was extremely unhappy about having to share Maria with someone like Oscar. And Grandma Zara didn't harbor any fondness for the new relative either. She would say, "This Oscar is slippery." But Maria loved him and believed that Oscar would show his true self eventually. After all, he said such beautiful words to her and Jack. However, Oscar didn't live up to her expectations. He didn't even get a job. Initially, he justified it by claiming that he couldn't strain himself after the injuries. Then he said there were no jobs available in the village. He didn't want to go to the city because he associated it with bad memories. In short, he needed time, and Maria decided not to rush her beloved. For a whole year, Maria lived in the illusion of happiness, forgiving Oscar for his laziness and occasional drinking bouts. The death of Grandma Zara helped her see the truth about the man she married. It was a serious shock for Maria, as the old woman's passing was unexpected. Yes, she was sick often, like all old people, but her granddaughter didn't think the end was so near. Strangely, it was precisely after the old woman's death that Oscar assumed he was the master of the house and completely let himself go. 2 weeks after the funeral, Jack had a bruise on his cheek, and he said he got into a fight at school. Maria started investigating who was to blame and promised to teach the culprit a lesson. The boy got scared that someone innocent would suffer and confessed that it was Oscar who had hit him. What? Why? The girl gasped. And then the boy finally opened up, telling Maria that it happened after Aunt Viola visited them and Jack poured water into her shoes. He tried to lie, saying he wanted to wash the shoes, but in reality, he just poured water into them out of spite. Viola had to go home with wet shoes, which made her furious, and Oscar was angry too. He expressed his anger with a resounding slap. Listening to all this, Maria couldn't believe that such a thing was happening to her. Viola, they used to be friends at school. Then, their interests diverged as Maria focused on her studies while Viola found other things interesting. But still, she couldn't imagine her friend would do such a thing. And Oscar? He was her husband, who said such beautiful words. He claimed he was a loner, and Maria was the only woman who interested him. But soon, Oscar proved that Grandma Zara was right, and Maria made a big mistake with this man. He became brazen and often came home drunk, shouting at Jack and Maria. He started picking on her, mocking her appearance, calling her sloppy and a bad housekeeper. And soon, it turned out that he was indeed seeing Viola, and half the village knew about it. The only one unaware was Maria, who was busy with work, household chores, and raising Jack. The workday for Maria ended, and she was about to go home, but she couldn't get the question out of her head, how could he do this to me? All day she held herself together, not showing her pain to patients and colleagues. But as soon as she stepped outside the hospital gate, she burst into tears. She cried loudly, not caring who saw her, like a little girl whose sorrow was the only thing that mattered. Her heart was tearing from her chest, her ears were ringing, and there was a dark haze in front of her eyes. The girl didn't even notice that a car had come from around the corner. Everything happened so fast that Maria didn't have time to understand anything. Screeching brakes, a powerful impact, screams, and a strange weightlessness, after which the girl felt excruciating pain. She wanted to take a breath, but something was pressing on her chest so strongly that her lungs refused to obey. This is the end, Maria thought and closed her eyes. She woke up in the ward, it was her hospital. Only now, Maria was not the rescuer, but the one who needed saving. Deborah, a kind-hearted nurse who had recently graduated, held Maria's hand and looked at her pale, exhausted face with sympathy. "Maria, Maria, can you hear me?" she said, with excitement. "Yes, Deborah, I hear you, I see you." "Everything looks blurry to me," Maria mumbled, not recognizing her own voice. It's okay," Deborah rejoiced. "You don't have a concussion, your vision will return to normal soon. I'm just so glad you're alive. You flew 20 meters. Can you believe it?" The driver ran away, of course. Thankfully, people passing by saw you and called an ambulance. Just a little more, Maria. It's scary to think about. Deborah sniffled. "What's wrong with me? What's the diagnosis?" Maria asked weakly. "Oh, Maria, the doctor will tell you everything. You know the rules. But since you work here and you're a nurse yourself, I'll still tell you. Don't expect good news, the impact was strong, and you fell on the curb. Right now, things are not great. But you know how resilient they make you get on your feet. There's hope." Maria closed her eyes. She understood that something had happened that divided her life into before and after. 2 months later, it was decided to discharge the girl. The entire hospital staff bid Maria a warm farewell. They wished her a quick recovery, hugged her tightly, and gave her flowers and small souvenirs. The doctor explained to Oscar about the spinal fracture, instructing him on how to care for her, what massages to do, recommending rehabilitation centers, medications, and modern wheelchair models that would make Maria's life more comfortable. However, Oscar only half listened. He had written off his wife and was only thinking about how unfair fate was to him. After all, if Maria had died, he would have lived just fine in her house. In the hospital, Oscar visited Maria only once, explaining that he didn't have time. He needed to take care of Jack and manage the household. What household? Maria thought. We don't even have chickens. However, when she returned home, she found that Jack was unshaven, dirty, and hungry. He hadn't been to school for over a month. The cats scattered around the village, searching for a better life, but occasionally returned home, looking quite wild. The dog was rarely let off the chain for a run and was fed infrequently. Jack did his best to feed the unfortunate dog, sometimes giving it his last morsel. Maria saw all of this, but she couldn't do anything. She was confined to the bed and couldn't even move to the shabby chair assigned to her upon the chief doctor's request without outside help. Oscar became shameless. He forgot to feed not only the dog but also Maria. He didn't assist her with the bathroom or hygiene. Only Jack helped her. He brought her food from the refrigerator and read her books. When Oscar beat Jack, suspecting him of stealing sausage from the fridge, Jack complained to their neighbor, Teresa. The same neighbor from whom Grandma Zara used to borrow clothes for him. Teresa was a tough lady. She came to Maria's house and threatened Oscar with the police if he ever hurt the child again. Then she went into Maria's room and, seeing the condition she was in, was horrified and burst into tears. "Maria, what has he done to you?" she lamented. But Teresa wasn't one to fuss around. She took matters into her own hands. She washed the girl, fed both her and Jack, gave massages, and helped her sit in a chair. She started coming twice a day, in the morning before work and in the evening after. They also got Jack cleaned up and sent him back to school. "Your Oscar is a scoundrel," grumbled Teresa, wiping the dishes after dinner. "He's become so shameless, not afraid of anything. And that Viola, your faithful friend." They strolled through the village arm in arm. Ugh! Disgusting to watch. Maria couldn't listen to this. She burst into tears, covering her eyes with her hands. "My poor orphan," Teresa suddenly realized. "Don't you worry. I'm here. Everything will be all right." Teresa despised Oscar greatly. He understood that getting rid of this woman wouldn't be easy, and he wouldn't be able to live in comfort with Viola. So, he decided to resort to drastic measures. One day, when Teresa was at work, Oscar came to Maria with some man in a suit and said in a lively voice, "Honey, this is a lawyer. He came to help us resolve property matters." "What property matters could we have?" Maria was surprised. "Everything here is mine." "Exactly, and that's how you're holding me here. Let's give each other freedom. Let me go and live happily." Oscar smiled. "Come on, who's holding you?" Maria was puzzled. "I won't leave until I have personal property. As alimony, I want this house." The lawyer brought all the papers. "We need your passport, documents for the house. Granny transferred it to you a long time ago, right? Well, you'll just sign. It's a 5-minute deal. Then it's good for both of us." Oscar grinned even wider. Maria was taken aback. "Are you out of your mind? I give you the house, and what's next? What will happen to Jack and me?" "The state will take care of you, as if you were a disabled person and a child. Tomorrow, I'll take Jack to an orphanage. I've already arranged it. It should have been done earlier. And you will live in a nursing home." Oscar laid it out. "No, that won't happen," Maria hissed. "Get out of my sight, so I won't see you or your lawyer anymore. Could you leave us alone for a moment?" Oscar turned to the lawyer. And when he left, he moved closer to Jack and whispered in Maria's ear. Think, Maria, think. Let me go on my terms, otherwise something irreparable might happen. There are so many dangers in this house for a child. The boiling water on the stove could spill, or the exposed wire could shock someone, or he could run into the woods alone and disappear in the swamp. Maria screamed. She was scared. She looked at Oscar with hatred. Of course, she had long been disappointed in this man, but she didn't think he was such a moral monster. She signed all the papers without hesitation, but couldn't do anything when Oscar took Jack to the orphanage in the morning, where he had already arranged everything. The neighbor yelled at him, tried to take crying Jack away, but Oscar pushed her away and sent her away. Maria fell into depression. She didn't want to eat or drink. The only thing she wished for was to die. And one day, Oscar brought another guest home. It was a pleasant young man slightly older than Maria. His voice was gentle, movements confident, but his face showed that he was going through a tough period in life. Maria instantly understood this, as she herself was in a depressed state, and she felt sympathy for the guest. However, that sympathy vanished instantly when she found out why he came. It turns out Oscar sold the house. Not just sold it, but together with her, Maria. Adam, that was the buyer's name, had a limited amount of money, and Oscar set a very low price for the house. Adam wanted to get away from the city because his wife, whom he had just divorced, was still there. At first, he refused to buy a house with a living soul inside. But Oscar offered him a very tempting price and convinced him that Maria had only 2 Mondays left to live, and soon no one would bother him. Friend, you see, Oscar said, I wanted to put her in a hospice, but that's inhumane, not humane. Let her live out her days here. But you won't find such a solid house for such a ridiculous price anywhere else. Think about it. And Adam agreed. Maria was shocked by this news. The house was sold along with her, equating her to a dog that lives in the yard and that you just feel sorry for throwing out on the street. Her entire life flashed before her in vivid slides. How did she end up in this point of no return? And warned her grandmother Zara. Soon, Adam moved his things, and Oscar left without even saying goodbye. The divorce papers came in the mail. Teresa informed Maria that he had left for the city without Viola, abandoning her. But Maria didn't care anymore. She was only worried about Jack and asked her neighbor to visit the boy. However, they didn't let Teresa into the orphanage as she was nobody to him. So Maria didn't know how he was doing there and cried every day. And then she decided that she simply wouldn't eat, drink, and die. Better that way than rot alive. May I help you with something? Unexpectedly asked Adam. I actually prepared lunch. I see you're not eating or drinking anything. Can you have anything, or are you on a special diet? We have borscht and pilaf. Don't worry, everything is quite tasty and edible. Maria turned away, indicating to the guy that she didn't want to talk to him. However, he persisted. Let me help you sit in the chair. Maybe you'd like to go to the yard? Get some fresh air. Leave me alone, I don't want anything, Maria replied. How can that be? A person can't want nothing while they're alive. There must be some desires, right? Maria turned abruptly towards Adam. Yes, there are. Take me back to the 15th of February, 8 o'clock in the evening, to Gagarin Alley, and make sure the car that maimed me isn't there. And if you can't do that, then I don't want anything else in this life. Just to die. Maria almost shouted, while Adam stood there pale and motionless. Horror and surprise froze in his eyes. The girl realized that something was wrong and fell silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Suddenly, Adam sank to the floor, clutching his head. Maria heard sobbing, and his shoulders shook. At some point, he lifted his head, his face red, and his eyelids swollen. Wiping tears with his sleeve, he crawled on his knees to Maria and buried his wet face in her palm. Then he quickly stood up and hurried off to another room. Maria was very frightened. She thought that something was wrong with the guy, and he had a seizure. What to expect from him now was uncertain. However, Adam returned soon, calmer now, and said, Maria, I'm sorry, I couldn't control myself. I just feel so sorry for you. You are so beautiful and young, you should live. I'm sure something can be done. I'll take you to the capital, find you the best doctors. I don't have much money right now, I left everything for Jack. But I earn decently. Plus, I have a car that I can sell. I believe, Maria, there is hope. The girl couldn't believe her ears, and she was even more surprised when Adam pulled the blanket off her, lifted her up like a feather, and placed her in a chair to take her for lunch. He took care of her, picking the tastiest morsels for her to eat, and afterward he took her outside to breathe some fresh air. He became a true guardian angel for the girl, caring for her as much as he could. He even invited the girls from the local beauty salon to come to her house and give her a haircut and a manicure, since a new hairstyle and pretty nails are the best antidepressant for girls. Maria asked Adam to help her get Jack back. However, the young man convinced her that it would be better to keep visiting him for now, as she would soon be leaving for the capital for rehabilitation. Adam would be with her, and Teresa wouldn't be able to take care of the boy. Maria agreed. She visited Jack in the shelter, and he was overjoyed to see her. The girl promised to take him back as soon as she could stand on her feet again. And the boy replied that it would be the happiest day of his life. Adam kept his promise. He took Maria to the most progressive clinic. The doctor was pleased that despite the lack of proper care in the first few months, as well as stress and malnutrition, there were still good chances for recovery. Maria swore to herself that she would do everything to walk again, endure any pain. And so, months of rehabilitation began, with Adam by her side, helping her with everything. Gradually, he felt something more than just friendly sympathy for her. Maria also noticed that she didn't see Adam as just a friend. She realized that he was the one for her. But she promised herself that she wouldn't become a burden to him and would only confess her feelings under one condition: if she could walk again. That day came. Maria walked with crutches, but she walked on her own. The doctors applauded when she took her first steps independently. It was a victory for them too. Adam witnessed her success, and tears welled up in his eyes. A few days later, they were strolling in the hospital park, and Adam was there to catch Maria if she fell. The girl decided to keep her promise and confess her feelings to him. After overcoming so much and achieving so much, she wasn't afraid to express her love to him anymore. Adam listened to her, holding her hand, but the expression on his face was incomprehensible to the girl. When she finished speaking, he replied, "Maria, thank you for your courage and honesty. I must tell you that I love you too. I have loved you for a long time. But I have a secret that you need to know, otherwise our relationship would be unfair. I'm deeply guilty in front of you, dear Maria. It was my car that hit you at that intersection, and my wife was behind the wheel. But I helped her cover up the crime. I got out of the car, and you weren't breathing, so I assumed you were dead. We drove away, and at home, I comforted my wife, who had a hysterical fit, and then I went to the garage and carefully cleaned the car. The guilt haunted me constantly. I started to wonder, what if you were still alive? But my wife's calmness was more important to me back then. And later, I found out that she was having an affair with my boss, and on that fateful day, I saved not my wife, but someone else's lover. We divorced, and I practically gave her everything. But you can't buy peace of mind, and my soul feels like it's being torn apart. Forgive me, if you can, Maria." The girl was stunned by Adam's confession. "Please, leave me alone. I need to think everything through," she said coldly. With his head down, Adam walked away. Since then, Maria didn't want to talk to him. She had almost fully recovered. The only thing left was to maintain the regime and do regular exercises at home. They took Jack back from the shelter, and he was happy. He became instant friends with Adam, but Maria refused to speak with their neighbor, pretending he didn't exist. It wasn't difficult, as Adam worked on his computer at night and preferred to sleep during the day, so they rarely crossed paths. However, one day, when Adam woke up and went to the kitchen, he found freshly brewed coffee and hot pancakes with homemade jam on the table. "Sit down and have breakfast, Adam," Maria said curtly. Jack was sitting nearby, back from school, and he was struggling with a bowl of soup, dreaming of the promised candies from Maria. Adam looked at Maria skeptically but decided not to argue. He sat down at the table and began to eat his breakfast. Maria sat next to him, and her expression suggested that she hadn't fully forgiven Adam yet, but was getting close to it. The young man didn't know what thought process led the girl to suddenly thaw. However, he chose not to ask anything to avoid scaring her away. "Now we're a real family," Jack exclaimed joyfully. "Mom, Dad, and little son." Adam looked at the boy and smiled. Maria gave both of them a stern look and said, "Let's eat." Jack was right. Soon all three of them became a true family, and Maria found herself thinking that she was grateful for the terrifying situation that brought her together with this wonderful man, Adam. He proposed to Maria, and she gave him the greatest gift by announcing her pregnancy. Maria was so absorbed in her family's happiness that she missed the gossip about Oscar returning to the village. He looked like a defeated rooster, thoroughly pecked by city hens. His city girlfriend had kicked him out as soon as his money ran out. Oscar decided to return to the village and stay with Viola, with whom he once had an affair while still with Maria. He had no idea that Viola had a lover. Viola's strong and burly partner confronted Oscar and threatened to punch him if he dared to approach her again. With nowhere else to go, Oscar wandered down the evening street and suddenly noticed his former house. Strange feelings stirred inside the insignificant man. He approached the window, through which a soft light shone, and saw the room, the very same room, although it looked a bit different. To Oscar's astonishment, he saw his ex-wife inside. He had been certain that she was dead. But there she was, not only alive, but also walking on her own. She looked radiant from within. She had a big belly, she was about to give birth, and Adam was caressing it and kissing Maria's lips. Meanwhile, Jack was busy constructing something with his toy blocks. They all looked so happy, glowing with joy. Suddenly, Maria looked up and glanced out the window. Oscar quickly darted behind a tree and hurried to walk past the house. This was no longer his wife or his home. There was nothing left for him to do here.